Girl, you the bandit, and she love me when I'm in it, and she never be pretending, nothing is real. She gon' tell you what she bought it, cause she know you can't afford it. Know you can get it, looking exquisite, no competition, stay on the pivot.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the E-Spot with Camille. I am your host, Camille Cower, and I cannot wait for you guys to meet my design guest today that I have, Rydhima Brar. She is a designer that has such an interesting background. She grew up in Kuwait, and so a lot of her work, you'll see that it's all over the place. It's just so many beautiful things and just brings in so much. It's like a tapestry of America meets California modern meets Kuwait. Like, I just love her energy and I love her design style. I can't wait for you guys to meet her. So I'm bringing her all up. She's part of the Kaleidoscope Project as well. So hello, Rydhima Brar. I'm
Hi,
so excited to
Camille.
meet you.
Same here.
Welcome,
I'm
welcome.
so excited. Thank you so much for having me. So exciting.
It's my pleasure, of course. So I want to go ahead and let's make this as quick as possible because I want to make sure we get all the information we can from you because designers are hot right now. Everybody is still changing their house around. They're going back to work or maybe they're staying home virtually and just wanting to change up their spaces so much. So I'm just so excited to have you here and to hear from you, your style design and how you got started at first. How did you get
Thank
into design?
you.
Yeah.
I got into design. I would say it was much more of a reincarnation in a way after my daughter's birth. She was born 3 years ago, and around that time is when I decided to just take a step back from my professional career prior to that, which was in banking and marketing. And it was just one of those massive changes. So with the arrival of my daughter was also the arrival of my new business and my new idea that I just wanted to get into design. As you mentioned, born and raised in Kuwait, Indian by origin, but born and raised in Kuwait. My father is in construction, still is. And so I think a part of construction design was always there in the background, but I feel like life made a full circle when after my daughter's birth, and I just felt like I want to do this. I want to be more flexible and I want to be more creative. And I think I was just itching to do that. So it started with designing my own condo, our first home that we bought. And that was when the design bug just, latched on. And after that, I felt like I wanted to do this for everybody. And so started with friends and family, of course, who really were very supportive. And an internship or so with a local designer here in LA. And then the launch of my business last year, just before the pandemic.
I love getting new designers. They're still building, but you've done a lot already because your press, you've been in AD, you've been in Forbes, you've been in all the press, like all the industry magazines. So
thank you.
What do you think helped catapult your rise in the design industry? And what more can we do to support you at that same time?
Oh, thank you. No, it's been a very interesting journey. When it started, it was a bit slow, but I think the biggest thing was pivoting right then and there. And because we knew we were going to be working remotely or more or less, from home, pivoting to a sort of a digital setup was one of the first things I did very, very early on when I started my own company, because all the events had shut down. There was no way for me to go out and mingle and socialize and sort of get more clients. And so this was one way where I totally switched. I pivoted. I started my own blog. And with that, I started doing a lot of e-clients is the best way I like to put it, where I was doing full-time
I love
range projects. Right? Yes, you do.
I get an E-Spot exclusive.
Yes. So the e-clients is how it all happened, where I was doing full range of projects, not a lot of construction at the time, but full design and multiple meetings with them digitally to really execute the entire project. And so that's how it picked up, and one client led to the next, and then as things opened up slowly, it switched to more of design build as well. And I've been fortunate, and that's exactly how I did the Kaleidoscope Project as well. It was all remote. I was one of the few designers. We were two of us out of the entire pack of 23 who was based out of LA. And so we were the two who could not fly in regularly or do site visits. So everything was done remotely. So that was also very, very good practice and good training to be able to also say that I have done a construction project,
Yeah. So, what
remotely.
tips would you give about that for clients as well as designers? Because I think sometimes from watching television or different DIY type projects, they get in. They get the design bug, and so you went a little bit
Yeah.
further with that. Like you made it into a career, you made it into a blog,
Yes.
and with the remote side of things, there's that opportunity that they can get a designer from anywhere. It doesn't necessarily need to
Anywhere.
be just like in
Yes.
your regular location. So how would they
Absolutely.
go about not just reaching out to you, but maybe finding the perfect designer that would work with their vision? And how did you go about making sure your vision translated well from digital to in person?
Yes, that's a really great question. As you mentioned, you're right. It's right now because the world has gone digital. It is very, very easily possible to work with a designer remotely. Not that it didn't happen before; it absolutely happened before. But I think prior to this, there was a lot of flying and in-person meetings that was sort of just expected from the designer if they wanted to work from somebody that was from a different country or a different state. But right now, digital has made it easy to just reach out. So I think the main focus for the client is to really, really know the aesthetic and the style that they want. If they understand that very clearly from the beginning, in terms of, we want something bright, bold, colorful, eclectic, something that even ties things back to heritage. I like to include the designer's heritage a lot the client's heritage a lot in my designs. And so if you sort of have a good idea and you like my work and my aesthetic, then I think once that's clear, then reaching out to a designer anywhere is very, very easy these days. Via their email, Instagram. I think those are the two main ways usually I've been getting clients. So via email or Instagram or through my website. And then once in my case, when I get a client who I'm working with remotely, which I am two right now, one is in San Francisco and the other one is out in Philadelphia. Um, Instead of doing phone calls, it's a lot of Zoom calls and, sort of being available for the client as and when they need to. With FaceTime, it's very easy these days to take those calls as well. So it's as good as being there in person, but doing a lot of the calls on video. And outside of that, it's a lot about constant communication, and on my end being on top of my digital assets, whether it's my drawings, whether it's the mood boards, whether it's the Pinterest boards. There's a lot of that visual aspect of communication that takes top priority. And communication, no matter what, email, regularly I do weekly emails with my clients about the status of their project, that hey, XYZ things have been ordered, here are the tracking numbers, expect this. So there's a lot of that on staying on top of when it comes to communication. So a lot of back end work on my end, but it's absolutely possible. And now that things are slowly opening up, I'm also doing site visits, but if it's in a different state or so, not as frequent because I'm not having to do it, because everything is very digital and almost available instantly for the client. Construction projects is a different beast altogether to do. Like the Kaleidoscope was different, thanks to
Yeah,
Amy and
actually back up
Patty.
a little bit. Sorry, because I just realized maybe some of the
Yeah, yeah,
audience
yeah.
members don't really know what the Kaleidoscope Project is. So it's a great
Oh,
opportunity to
go ahead.
even speak of that a little bit. So share how you got involved with the Kaleidoscope Project. What is the Kaleidoscope Project and where can we see it? Or when?
Ooh. So the Kaleidoscope Project is a groundbreaking project because it sort of takes the showhouse model and sort of modifies it, and in this case we did it for an inn that was built in the 1700s. It's based in Lennox, Massachusetts. And so what we did was, the owner of the inn bought the inn and knew that it needed to be renovated. And so from my understanding, Amy was the one who got involved with the owner, and that was when they decided that instead of doing a traditional renovation, why not turn this into a bit of a show house where we can invite 23 designers, BIPOC designers from all over the country, to participate and help let them design each room, one room each. And so this was, in the just with the way things were going, the way things happened last year with George Floyd and a lot of the other events that happened, there was also some I would say recognition within the industry that a lot of the BIPOC designers also needed a platform to speak up and show their work. And this was a great way to do that. And that's how I got involved in it. I had a connection through Patty, and that's how I was involved and invited to join the project. And the moment I heard of it, for somebody who's starting out a career pretty recently, this being my second career, to get an opportunity like this, which is like a showhouse 2.0, I couldn't even dream of it, because, doing a showhouse itself is a pretty big endeavor and a big one financially as well. But with the way this project worked, there was a lot of the industry vendors, manufacturers were more than happy and very, very gracious to sponsor a lot of their products as well. And so we had some really top-notch companies, Benjamin Moore, Curry and Company, Cravat, a lot of them sponsored a lot of their products to us designers that we got to pick from and select. And so I was able to design a room, and I was able to call it the Rydhima Room. And the show house was held for 2 weeks in June. And as of right now, it's ended. But if you were to ever go and visit Lennox and stay at the Cornell Inn, you can actually stay in my room, because everything that we designed and the way we designed remained. Nothing was torn down, just like traditional show houses. So all of the rooms are very different. Each designer has put in their heart and soul into it. Very, very different colors, styles, aesthetics, different stories. And it's a very, very colorful, vibrant place. Even the bar, the restaurant, the main lobby area, everything is so beautiful that it's definitely one of a kind. And so, and in my room, there. The narrative. Yeah. Sorry, I'm so sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're fine. I was just going to say, I can't wait to stay there, because I want to see it all in person. Yeah.
Yes, it's definitely worth it. And in my room, I just had the narrative of, as you mentioned, my background. So I have a lot of bold color in there. My bathroom is a bit of a mix of an Indian and an Moroccan sort of a feel, with really beautiful wallpaper of the Indian landscape. And my room has a lot of those elements of, my Middle Eastern background, which is very, very rich, luscious fabrics and dark colors. And it feels very luxe and very, very elevated, but with a lot of color. And I think color is what a lot of the clients these days, especially post-pandemic, they're craving a lot of the color and the vibrancy. And that's sort of what I brought into that room. And it's very exciting. It's very exciting. And hopefully you'll get to see, if not visit, you'll get to see some of the images and photos that are, impressed these days. But yeah, it's very exciting.
Now, for you, with working with a house that has a historical significance, there wasn't a lot of construction that was allowed to be made anyway. So speak a little bit for other designers that might find themselves in that same situation of maybe being limited by size with smaller bathrooms, or even how you were able to bring in your heritage and bring in modern looks to a place that's very historic. And then I know that artwork and accessories play a huge part in that as well. So can you share a little bit about that as well, or what trends you're, maybe not so much trends, but different things that you suggest that really can showcase someone's heritage in their home, but also make it show them as well, like how a designer can maneuver all of that. Because I'm sure, because I am very interested in the fact that you try to bring in your client's heritage into each piece like that. Like, how does that research go about as well? Like, how do you make sure you're paying homage to that? And how does that go about? I'm sure everyone's like, great idea. Or maybe they have like these different, different accessories, and trying to figure out how to grandma's old whatever plates or so forth. So I'm very interested in how you were able to do that with the house in Lennox. This is the inn in Lennox.
Yeah, in Lennox. Yeah, it's so, to answer the first question, with construction and being limited in so many aspects, the biggest thing is you have to be very, very flexible. The way I had, yes, I would say 95% of what I had envisioned happened, but there were definitely elements that did not happen, or I had to, on the moment or in the spot, or as things were going, when we would have our weekly calls, regular calls with the organizers, they're like, certain things cannot be done because it's being an old house, or whatever the other restrictions that we had. And we had to literally be very flexible, think on the spot of alternatives of what we can and cannot do. And if we weren't liking the way things were turning out, how can we fix it right away and come up with a very creative solution to you sort of make it work. There were a lot of make it work moments, I would say, as Tim Gunn would say. And so there was definitely a lot of that. And so a lot of that happened remotely as well. And some of it was just more of the moment we arrived. We had a few days for install, and there was a lot of quick thinking that had to happen. In my case, especially, I'm sure the other designers went through this as well, but for me, I felt like it was right there when they're like, oh, this light cannot be installed over here in my bathroom. Like, we cannot do this in the ceiling. There's no way it's going to happen. What do you want to do? And then quickly trying to sort of figure out, okay, how can we make it work? And so I put it above my above my vanity, flip the mirror. It was supposed to be vertical, flip it to a horizontal, and put the lighting on top of it. And instantly it's like, all right, what else? What else can we do to tweak things, and make things happen so that it looks like it was meant to be? And so you have to be very flexible, and you cannot be stuck with certain things, especially when you're designing things remotely. So that was one of the biggest things that I learned in this process. And to answer your second question about heritage, so again, going back to the bathroom, well, overall, when I started to work on the design of the room itself, right away, it was more of color. I knew I wanted it to be doused in color. And because I had free reign, I could do whatever I wanted in terms of whatever color, style, aesthetic, which, sometimes you don't get to do with clients. And so I was able to bring that out creatively. And as I was working through it, I felt...
Well, I was going to say, and not to mention, you had all these sponsors just giving you products to work with too. So I just envision it being almost like the Clueless closet, where you're just like, I can,
I can do this. I can do this. I can pick this. Yes.
So, sorry, I just was
like
thinking,
that.
Yeah.
No, it was. It very much was like that. It got a little overwhelming at certain points. I'm like, all right, I cannot have like 3 vanities in my room. It can barely fit one. So, or a dresser or so. And so, as I was selecting all of these items, I think just innately I started to draw a lot of inspiration from my background. There were certain memories that came to my mind about, remember, there was this particular piece of art, or there was this particular style of drapery that I remember growing up with, which is my favorite. How can I bring that here? Granted, some of the things from heritage can be a bit more traditional. Sometimes they cannot work with the overall vibe, especially if you're, say, doing something very contemporary. But there's a way to sort of make it work. And that's sort of what I honed into when I was trying to do my design. And so with the room, I ended up using a lot of the colors that I was drawn to from my heritage. So green is something that goes very, very, I even mentioned this in my own blog, that it's a very auspicious color in general in the Indian culture. And so this being my first show house, I was like, I definitely want to incorporate green. And so that's sort of the piece of a little bit of the heritage that I involved there. So all of my walls were green. My wallpaper and the ceiling was green, and a greenish teal in a way. So if I didn't want to be like crazy green, it was like greenish teal and sort of in that spectrum. So that's one example of including heritage. And then in the bathroom, when I said I did the Indian landscape as the wallpaper, it's a statement piece from Gracie wallpaper, but you walk in and it tells a story. It definitely draws your attention. There are a lot of historic Indian landscapes and structures that are in there as you see it, inspired by the Mughal Empire, kings and queens, and you see that, and you take it in for a minute, and you're like, wow, this takes me back home. And a lot of the visitors who came to view the show house, it sort of reminded them, some of them who had traveled to India, to be like, oh my gosh, this is just like my travel to India. I remember seeing this motif or this style or this sort of aesthetic and this color palette. And then the tile that I combined with it had a very Moroccan feel. So it was a very global sort of a feel. And so everyone who went in got that feeling. And so there are very unique ways that you can absolutely incorporate heritage without it making look very thematic. I think that's the one thing a lot of the folks struggle with, is it looks like very thematic, or it looks like an antique shop or something like that. A lot of people don't want that in their design, but there are ways to pick certain elements and incorporate them in the design, whether it's art, whether it's color, whether it's just something that you have a very nostalgic reaction to, and you can bring that into the space. So I really, that's something I'm very passionate about, especially having a 3-year-old. I feel like that's one way I will be able to teach her about my own heritage, is by incorporating some of these elements into design. Because she asks, Mama, what is that? What is this? And so I'm able to tell her that, Mama grew up here, or this is grandma's, or this is grandpa's, or some story along with it. So that's why I enjoy that.
So this has been a great conversation, and I want to make sure everyone knows how they can support you and follow you. So tell everyone where they can reach you and how they can get in touch with you if they have some more design questions.
Yes, absolutely. You can reach me on Instagram. It's at Arterior Studio. So RTERIOR Studio, and my website is also the same, www.arteriorstudio.com. I'm always on either of the websites, getting all my DMs, checking them, and same on Instagram. And you can even reach me via email at hello@arteriorstudio.com. So if anybody's interested in any questions or even design related items, please feel free to reach out to me.
All right, that's been great. Now, do you have any last parting words that you would like to share that we didn't go over?
As things are opening up right now, people are very excited and going out and about. But I still feel like please stay safe, get vaccinated, and embrace color. Embrace color. Right now, this is the time to, especially with people, a lot of them still working from home, and really taking advantage of their spaces. Do the best you can. Be in a very lively and a colorful, vibrant environment. It really helps uplift your mood. So. Stay happy and sunny.
I love it. So thank you again for being my guest today. It was
Thank you
totally
so much
my
for
pleasure.
having me.
Anytime.
you so much.
And I mean that really. So
Thank
again,
you.
thanks everyone for joining. This has been amazing conversation about design and about the Kaleidoscope Project, which she mentioned already. That's at Lennox and up in Massachusetts. So find out more information. Look down below. I'll have it in the comments, all the different places, and her website, where you can reach her on Instagram. All of it will be there. So thank you again for being my guest, and thanks for tuning in to the E-Spot with Camille.
Thank you.